Today, I'm reading more of my viewers' most insane confessions, and let me tell you, these ones were pretty wild. This first one is called, "My schizophrenic aunt tried murdering me with a tombstone." When I was 4, my aunt convinced me to go up to the mountains in rural Pennsylvania where people would play in the graveyard. We were playing hide and seek when she ended up pushing a 250-pound tombstone during a manic episode on top of me, crushing me completely. Somehow she pulled it off me and carried me down the mountain, where my leg got really f***ed up. I'm okay, lol. My aunt ended up running away out of guilt to Arizona. Sorry to all of y'all out there having to deal with her. The worst part of this story is that it happened a week before Halloween. I got crushed by a tombstone a week before Halloween. Man, I don't even know where to begin with this. First of all, whatever the case, schizophrenia, some other mental disorder, how does your brain go to let me push a tombstone in any direction, never mind push it onto someone? How do you even do that? How did your aunt push a 250-pound tombstone on you? Aren't those usually just like embedded into the ground? Like, aren't they sort of buried a little bit? I don't know, man. That's kind of insane, though. I'm glad that you're okay and you recovered from that. This one is titled, "I think I'm destined to be transgender." So this was back when I was 14 or 15 years old. I had hit puberty, and as you know, during puberty, hormones start going wild, and I was very interested in, well, things. Anyway, I started looking at girls. Young girls, older girls. I didn't care. But I was just looking at girls, specifically the boobs. And when I looked at boobs, I knew I wanted them. And I needed them at whatever cost. I just couldn't keep it in. Kept looking, and I was getting careless. I was almost trying to make it look obvious. Anyway, after a few months of watching, I decided I had enough. I took a pair of my underwear, and I cut it up in a way and threaded a string through it in a certain way to where it acted as a fully working bra. And I put t-shirts where the boobs were supposed to go, and I would sleep with them every night for almost a month. Until not even that was enough. So sometimes when my parents, sister, and brother would all go to his basketball practice, I would go into my mom's closet and take out her biggest, prettiest dresses and put them on. Then I would look in the mirror and I would imagine myself as a real woman. Sometimes also at night I would think to myself that maybe I was supposed to be a girl, but somehow in the womb I got mixed up. But anyway, I also used to talk with ChatGPT and have a bunch of really sexual conversations. But eventually I thought I grew out of it, because once football season came, I felt like a man again, because I was a defensive lineman and I was the toughest on my team. But once the season ended and school started back up, I kind of fell out of it. Until I found a really cute girl I had a crush on. To make long story short, we ended up dating, and sometimes I would stare at her boobs. And eventually she got weirded out and broke up with me. We haven't talked since because she thinks I'm weird. But I've been fantasizing about becoming a woman, and sometimes I even look at other boys doing something called, quote, window shopping, end quote. But ever since my football season, I haven't gotten any chances to keep doing it. Do you have any advice for me, Niko? Look, me personally, I never questioned whether or not I was in the wrong body or anything. I've been pretty content being a guy my entire life. Other than that, it sounds like you're quite conflicted because on the one hand, you say you felt masculine when you were in football practice. Then on the other hand, you're sort of fantasizing about being a woman. The one thing I would tell you is, at the very least, until you're a fully developed adult, I wouldn't do anything drastic like changing genders surgically or anything. You could go into, I guess, drag, because that's kind of like the closest thing to what you're describing here. Like, you're still a guy, but you also have a feminine side that you want to explore. It sounds like you have gender dysphoria to some capacity, but yeah, I would go see a therapist, man, and see what you think is going on. Just make sure, like I said, whatever you do, don't go switching genders surgically before you're fully developed adult, because puberty is messy and hormones are strange, and sometimes you feel things that you don't feel later and vice versa. But I would talk to a psychiatrist about this, or a psychologist, okay? But best of luck to you. This one is called, "I watched my friend destroy his finger." One time in the summer, I was out with my best friend. We were both 15 and dumb. And our town had this bridge that joined the two sides of the town. The bridge had these rocks on both sides that were to stop waves. And we would usually climb down the rocks to hang out under the bridge. One day, we decided to carry some of the rocks up and throw them over the rail into the river. We ended up doing this for a while, and we slowly moved up to bigger and bigger rocks. My friend picked up a rock that we should have known was too heavy, but thought we could manage it. We ended up getting all the way up the rocks and to the guardrail that stops cars from flying off into the ocean. And he set the rock to balance on the rail to catch his breath. But when he picked it up again, his grip failed, and he eviscerated his left pinky finger between this near 100-pound rock and the sharp metal guardrail. He ended up forgetting about the rock and yelled at me to call 911. I didn't know how severe the situation was and thought that he was just joking. But then when I caught a glimpse of his hand, I saw only red. So I checked my pockets to realize both our phones were sitting under the bridge. So I ran all the way back under to grab our phones and called 911. I let my friend explain what had happened and sat him down. As we waited for the ambulance to come, he said he wanted to play Clash Royale to ease the pain? Multiple question marks. So I held the phone while he played. Eventually the ambulance found us and he got treated. Later that day, I was with him at the hospital, and I got to witness the lovely sight of a doctor quite literally picking up pieces of his finger that were barely hanging on. Hear the doctor go, I think this goes here, and stitch his finger crudely back together. Thankfully, his finger survived, and now me and his family sometimes call him Pinky. I mean, that's pretty funny, but also, yeah, kids, don't go playing with large rocks and stones on the sides of cliffs. You could have had a lot worse happen than just a pinky being destroyed there. I can't even imagine how painful that must have been. Like, the closest I've ever gotten to like my fingers getting crushed in anything was once I got my pointer finger caught in a door, like a car door, and it hurt really bad. I was very young, and all I can remember is that we were going to a beach or something, and my nail just turned black, and then a few weeks later it just took the nail off and a different one had spawned underneath, so I was fine. But yeah, that sounds horrible. This one is titled, I accidentally dated a gay dude. Okay, what dude? This is the second one in 2 videos. So basically when I was like 15, I had just broken up with my girlfriend of 2 years and in a pretty tough spot where I felt really lonely. So I decided that the best thing to do is to spend too much time on Discord and also joining some weird servers. In one of those servers, I got a DM by a user who told me she was a Danish girl in my age, and we talked for a few days. And quote, she, I'm gonna just say she for now, was really like the perfect person, having a lot of similar hobbies and also just easy to talk to. After like 1 week, she randomly got really personal and intimate, asking me questions which could only be answered in a dirty way. But I kept playing along since I can't refuse a situation like that. So after about 15 minutes, she then sent me a picture as a reward with her like in a towel in the bathroom, which was also very good looking if you ask me. That continued for like a month, with her now getting all freaky every single night and me playing along every night. The conversations went further and she sent more pictures, with one being very close to exposing her you know what, which to be real I may have saved on my phone if you know. Then on a random day she just stopped responding, and I was of course a bit suspicious, making up all sorts of excuses, like her parents finding out and taking her phone. But after a few days, I completely forgot about her, and since it was on an alt account, I didn't check the DMs. But like about 4 months later, I go onto that account and see she texting me saying she is sorry and all that. I then asked her why she did it, and she said she felt bad for me, which was confusing, since I don't remember anything bad happening. So I asked again, and she admitted, I quote, "This entire time I was a dude," end quote. After asking a bit more, he told me that he wanted to feel like a girl, and those pics were him trying to look like a girl, which did work, and that he texted me because I was so kind to him. So please, everyone watching, do not date online, and if, have them send you an audio and FaceTime them. Listen, man, I can't agree more with you. If you're going to do anything online, if you're going to go long distance and any sort of thing with someone that you've never met in person before, you have to be careful. Shit like that happens, and you don't know who you could be talking to on the other side. In your case, you got catfished with gender. You could have gotten catfished with gender and age and then eventually met up with a creepy old dude as a 15-year-old boy, which would be horrifying and could have probably gotten you kidnapped. So, yeah. You need to be very, very careful with this sort of stuff. Always verify before you start getting freaky with people online. But I'm glad you're okay and that it didn't turn into anything worse. This one is titled, I Got My Older Brother Killed. This story happened a couple of years ago, 7 to be exact. I was 11 years old. My brother was on a journey to become a full-time pro boxer. He would usually take me to the local boxing gym to hang around and watch him box. On this particular day, he didn't want to go for whatever reason. However, I insisted on going. My older brother was known in the neighborhood for being a prodigy and trying to become something big. On our way back from the gym, we would usually take a more public and accessible route home. However, often I would ask him to take a detour and go through an alleyway that had multiple graffiti and looked really nice. Little did I know this would be the biggest mistake of my life. Like usual, I asked him to go through the alley as I wanted to see the graffiti. This alley was extremely secluded and dark. As we were walking past, we spot this group of guys speaking extremely loud and acting weird, probably under the influence, which would be normal in our neighborhood, except when we got closer to them, they recognized my brother and started trying to get his gym bag. My older brother was obviously fearing that they would harm me. He fought back, them outnumbering my brother. They hit him really hard in the head and he fell back, then they proceeded to stab him repeatedly while I stood there in shock and frozen. The group of guys then ran off and didn't even take his bag. I don't remember much after due to shock. I only remember some lady running towards us with a few officers. They put me in their car, and I could hear shouting, ambulance sirens, and voices of paramedics trying to save him. Okay, first things first, I'm so sorry for your loss. That is absolutely horrifying and terrible, and I can't imagine what you went through and are still going through. The only thing I can really say here is that Just be very careful, guys, when you're going in places that are sketchy and different alleyways or sketchy parts of your town or city, because things like this can happen. And everyone thinks it's not going to be me, it's not going to be me, but sometimes it is you. And if you ever do find yourself in a situation where you're being robbed at gunpoint or knife point, or even if there's just a big group of guys surrounding you, just give them what they want, because whatever you have on you is not worth your life. This one is titled Twins Got Expelled for Incest Because I Told on Them. Around last year, these twins joined my school. They were in a grade below me at the time, but I knew about them because one was in my friend's homeroom. There was a rumor that the reason they got put in different houses is because they would constantly make out with each other. I obviously didn't believe it at the time until November of last year. We had an inter-house competition where we do these challenges against the other houses. The day was normal all up until the end of school. Everyone was heading to their lockers, but I got held back because I was taking photos with my friends. We split ways and I headed to my locker, which was on the other side of the school. While passing the bathrooms, I decided to take a whiz because it would be a while before I got home. I got distracted and scrolled on my phone for a while. I suddenly heard the door open and I put my phone back in my pocket. I heard giggles coming from the direction of the sinks, so I decided to wait for them and leave before I wash up. That's when I started to smell the aroma of sex and began thinking the worst. Since I go to an all-girls school, I just thought it was somebody's pad not put away properly and hopefully nothing worse. I stood up and walked out of the stall to be met with a traumatizing scene. Not even kidding, I saw these two bent over the sink basins with their dresses pulled up. I ran out of the bathroom and immediately called my friends to tell them what had happened. Word spread around fast, and the next week they were expelled from school. We had a whole assembly about it, and now looking back I find it hilarious. Man, I really don't have anything to say at this point. I'm assuming, yeah, you went to an all-girls school, so they're girl twins that are a little too into each other. Sounds like something out of a weird psychological horror movie that is probably going to become a plot. Oh, man, people, I just leave your siblings alone. There's billions of people you can choose from, okay? Billions. If you really want to, you can even try and find an identical copy of your sibling, looks-wise, personality-wise, and play around there. Just don't do it with your siblings. This one is titled, My Father Keeps Telling Me How Pretty I've Gotten. Oh, man. This all began when I started showing my first signs of puberty. At first, he just told me how pretty I'd gotten and how my body had, quote, matured, end quote. He didn't say this too often, but it was still unsettling. After a while, it got worse. He'd walk around the house naked after showering while I was around. Then it got even weirder. He started slapping/grabbing my butt and grabbing/caressing my thighs. Keep in mind, I was 10 when this all started. A couple of years later, he admitted to me that he used to have a porn addiction, which honestly didn't surprise me. There are a few more incidents like this. One time I was sick because of food poisoning and my dad was watching me while I was sleeping. I woke up to him literally caressing me. I wish I was kidding. My mother also would sometimes do some unsettling things, but she stopped after a few months. At one point, my dad would do these things in public or in front of his friends, which I don't want to get into because it was kind of uncomfortable. It was the worst when I was 13, but after that, it kind of died down. Sometimes things like this still happen, but rarely. It's a few years later now and nothing has happened in a while, which I'm obviously glad about. The thing is, my father keeps giving me weird looks and keeps telling me how gorgeous I am. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but it's still very uncomfortable to say the least. I've grown hesitant to be close with my parents because of past incidents, and I'm also concerned that something worse might happen. But after all, I might be overthinking it. Thanks for reading, and advice is appreciated since I still live with them and legally cannot move out yet since I'm still under the age of 18. Okay, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. You're not overthinking this. This is really bad, okay? Your dad is a disgusting person. I'm not going to sugarcoat that part. And it doesn't sound like your mom is very helpful in this situation either. So my biggest concern here is your safety. I would love in the comments if there's anyone that has worked with counselors before or social services or anything of the sort. If you have that knowledge or know of people that have that knowledge, please leave it in the comments below. As far as what I can tell you, you need a support system here that unfortunately cannot come from your parents. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do here, but I will give you a few options. Number one, if you're really scared that something bad is going to happen, if you don't feel safe in your own home, if you think that there's a worst case scenario there, you might want to try talking to a school counselor, school psychologist, someone that can't tell your parents that you've said this to them legally, but what will happen there is that they're going to have to report that to Child Protective Services, and you might be placed in foster care, and that can also be dangerous for you, so you're kind of dealing with a bit of a double-edged sword there. Another option is for you to wait it out until you're 18, or for you to be emancipated. None of these options, though, are great. Perhaps you have other family members you can tell, or a grandparent, but even then, I don't know. I don't feel very trusting of the adults in your life right now, So I'm still leaning towards a school counselor of sorts. Again, in the comments below, there's probably someone that has a better idea, something that is better than this. I'm not qualified, nor do I have any expertise or experience in this. Just be very careful, and I wish you the best of luck. This one is titled, I found out my friend has been raping his sister. Let's call that friend Joe. He was 17 when I found out, and his sister was 16. I was also 16. Anyways, one day I overheard him talking with a group of friends at school in class. No one else was there, just them and me trying to fall asleep. Joe was saying that he had sex with his sister last night and uploaded it. I was shocked. I didn't believe it. So the next day I decided to ask one of his friends I was close with, and he started telling me that he has been doing this for 2 years. He records and uploads them to a site. He sent me the link and I saw that he has been uploading there a lot. Took a peek and backed out. He was saying that Joe threatens her into doing this by saying he will tell dad that she hangs out with other guys and gets money for sex, which is actually true. It's been 3 years, and I stopped talking to him and all of his friends almost a year ago because I found out they were talking behind my back. Also, I got a little curious and decided to check Joe's profile through that link again, and he still uploads there. I still see his dad at the supermarket very often and greet him. His dad has no idea about this. Joe's mother is divorced, by the way. I'm considering telling his dad about this, but I still haven't. What do you think? I wouldn't tell his dad. I would tell the police at this point. Joe is raping his sister and blackmailing her into making CP with him. Police, FBI, anything. What a horrible thing. Seriously, what a horrible, horrible thing. And the craziest part about this isn't that it's just Joe doing it. His friends are also just okay with this. Like, what is wrong with people? What is going on in this world, man? Sometimes the more I read these, the more I lose my faith in humanity, man. Forget the dad, just call the cops at this point, man. This one is titled, The Time I Realized I Wasn't Brave Enough. I work at a cafe/bar as a barista. A few years ago, some of my usual customers came in with friends of theirs who are now my best friends. We were already close back then, especially me and the guy I'll call Paul. I gave them their usual drinks. Paul had a Coke, and his friend, I call him Leo, had a Weizen, a type of beer. It was around 5 p.m. after school on a Friday. Everything seemed normal. They were laughing, joking, having fun. I listened from afar while working. About an hour later, I looked up and saw Leo yelling about how being queer is wrong and how not being white hurts the white environment. Absolute bullshit, obviously. But he did this all the time when he got too drunk. At first, I thought it would blow over. It didn't. Leo started yelling at 2 girls from their class, both lesbians, and one of them was French. Paul tried to stop him when Leo suddenly rushed toward them, ready to beat them up. I knew that if I stepped in, he'd probably hit me too, even though I'm older than him. He managed to go outside and immediately started beating up the French girl because apparently she was worse. At first, his friends helped him. They held the other girl down and forced her to watch her girlfriend get beaten. It made me sick knowing I couldn't help. At least I thought Paul would stay out of it. I thought he wouldn't do something like that. I ran to the door and watched from there. And then he started hitting her too. All because Leo talked him into this shit. I'm still shocked that he did that. When they were done, they came back inside. Paul looked completely traumatized while the others cheered for Leo, ignoring how Paul felt. I took Paul to the back of the bar. He immediately broke down crying and apologizing over and over. I understood. Leo was an asshole back then. But the one thing I regret is not calling the damn police. I don't know why I didn't, but here I am knowing damn well I'm not brave enough for shit like this. This is rough because, like you said, if you went in and tried to help the girls, you probably would have also gotten beaten up with them. And I see what you're saying, I understand why you feel like you're not brave enough and whatnot. So if something similar happens again, remember this moment, remember this experience and how you don't want it to go down like that again. And maybe that'll help you call the police next time. This one is called I Cucked My Female Friend's Boyfriend. Oh my god. When I was 16, I was friends with this one girl who went to my school. She was kind of cute and we got along well, but I didn't really like her per se. But I did find her kind of attractive. So basically a year goes by with us being friends and she gets a boyfriend. He is slightly older at 17 and I have to admit he was kind of a weird incel. He had greasy hair and was slightly overweight, but not by too much of a margin. Anyways, he was kind of shy around everyone, so I didn't know him well. The girl tells me that she and him had sex a couple of times, but they were interested in some cuck stuff. I thought she was joking due to her making obvious jokes like this in the past and having this kind of sense of humor. However, the next day at school, right before winter break, the boyfriend approaches me and passes me a note. I was low-key scared to read it myself, maybe because I thought he was threatening me, so I have my homeboy read it for me. He opens it up and begins reading to himself, before audibly cursing and beginning to hysterically laugh. I grab the note from his hands and kind of freeze, because it was literally that girl's boyfriend asking if I could cuck him. He said he thinks it's hot that I'm taller and stronger than him, and wants to watch me his girl. I was kind of skeptical and still thought it was a joke. However, after school I get permission from my parents to stay later, so I would have to get home either by public bus or an Uber. However, as I'm about to order the Uber, the girl and her boyfriend walk up to me and say they were being serious. I promptly agree, mostly because I still think that they are joking. Her boyfriend drives us to her house and her parents and younger brother are not there. So basically we end up doing it, and the entire time I'm kind of confused because I'm just going at it and she's holding her boyfriend's hand as it happens. The guy is just sitting there on the bed and looks kind of sad, to be honest, so I almost felt bad for him. When I'm done, he agrees to give me a ride home. After that, I remained friends with both of them, and we never spoke about it again until her boyfriend graduated and I got a girlfriend. This is definitely one of the weirder things I've done. Look, I'm not here to kink shame. If you all had fun doing this and everyone was happy with it at the end of the day, cuck away, I suppose. Oh man, I'm actually losing my fucking mind. This one is titled Kidnapped by a Drug Dealer. One time me and my friend saw that there was a fair going on at the mall right by her house, so we decided to walk to it. We didn't get ride tickets or anything, just thought it would be fun to walk around. Keep in mind this mall is pretty sketchy and almost dead, so we're walking around a bit and I point out a guy from our school. He's a junior and we're sophomores, but she doesn't recognize him. Later on, the guy from our school, let's call him Joey, and his two friends come up to us and ask for my friend's snap. She says yes for the plot even though he's short and low-key ugly. She thought it would be funny. Then we go our separate ways. Later he texts her and says, quote, "You guys want to go somewhere? I got my car," end quote. Immediately we said no because we know this kid is kind of sketchy, so we move on thinking nothing of it. But then my friend's phone died and she needed it since we walked there. So we find Joey and his friends and ask for a charger. He says he has one in the car, so we followed him to his car. When we get there, he gets in the driver's seat, one of his friends gets in the front, and the other stops before getting in the back. His friend tells us to turn around. My friend does because she's stupid, but I don't, and see him hide a bunch of stuff in a vest-looking thing and put it in the trunk, and then before he got in, he grabbed something out of the pocket on the back of the driver's seat and hides it under his leg. I saw that it was a knife. We should have left then. My friend gets in the car because she needs to charge her phone, and I stop before getting in because I get a really bad feeling, obviously. I tell her we really need to go, and at first she says no because she needs to charge her phone, but when she can tell I know something is wrong, she gets out of the car. While she's getting out, the same friend with the knife pulls up his shirt and looks me dead in the eye to reveal a gun in his waistband. We started running and thankfully we got away. Later we find out that Joey deals drugs and guns. He randomly left our school mid-year and turns out he was in juvie. That was a very scary moment. We could have gotten kidnapped, raped, or killed. Glad I decided to run. That is quite scary indeed, and all of those things could have happened to you. My only question here is, why would you go to his car to get a charger if you weren't willing to go hang out with him because he was sketchy in the first place? I understand your friend needed a charger, but it sounds like you already knew this guy was problematic to begin with. I guess what I'm trying to say is, learn to trust your gut with things like that, because more often than not, your sixth sense is right. If you have a bad feeling about something, there's a very high chance that there's a good reason for it. In any case, I'm glad that you and your friend are safe. This one is just called My Drunk Friend. So last summer, I invited my friend to try my new sim racing that I got for my birthday. We played on it all the afternoon. We were alone, by the way. Then asked him if he wanted to try a beer. We were 13, so we both drank one, and he asked me if he could take another one. To which I said yes. Then an hour later, I got to the toilet and come back, but he wasn't there anymore, and I heard screaming coming from the rooftop. So I got up there, and he was there singing and dancing weirdly, and then he threw up on the neighbor's balcony. We thankfully didn't get caught, but it was hilarious. You know, it's funny because you have no idea how alcohol is going to affect you the first time you have it, especially when you're 13. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, don't drink at 13. But if you are gonna do it, just be safe about it, okay? Don't be dumb. This one is titled Ruthlessly Rage Baiting This Jerk at My School. So there is this absolute jerk in my school. Let's call him Michael. He was in my 6th period class, and how you may think of this guy as a jerk is he makes fun of my autistic little brother by mocking him, spreads false information of me saying racist things to his friends, and of course they would believe him. I wish I could punch this guy so bad. So one day in 6th period, we had to do an assignment on the computer, and this dude tends to go in a good spot to hide his computer from the teacher. He does this because he likes to play games on websites. So I took advantage of this to rage bait him. I would keep telling him to, quote, get off the games, end quote, kind of loudly. Other people would sit close to him and say he was on games even though he was not. We would do this so much he was on the verge of tears. If I said something to him about being on games, he would smash his computer and start saying loudly to me, quote, I'm not on games, end quote. I did this to him every day. Some of my other friends joined in. I also like to make fun of him on how he takes 5-minute showers, to which he also crashes out. I hated Michael to the core. He was a real piece of shit. Thanks for reading, Niko. Honestly, man, good on you. I feel zero empathy for bullies, and I'm a firm believer that in this specific case, you fight fire with fire, okay? If someone's bullying you, bully them the fuck back. A lot of you might say he should have told the teacher and kill him with kindness. No, that doesn't work, okay? Kids are assholes. You have to think of it like a prison. The kids are the prisoners, and the teachers are the prison guards. Yeah, if a fight breaks out, a prison guard can come in and break up a fight, but the next day, the same prison fight is gonna happen. It's the same way in school. Sure, you could tell the teacher that Michael is making fun of your autistic brother, and then the next day you're being made fun of by the whole school for being a crybaby to the teacher. So what do? You fight fire with fire. The same thing happened to me when I was being bullied by this one kid. Oh my god, it was such a prick. There was just one kid in my class that terrorized everyone from elementary school to middle school, the whole shebang. He terrorized everyone, including me and my friends. By middle school, I just had enough of it. One day, he was on his usual bullshit, trying to rage bait me and saying some shit to me, and then I said something to him back. He got really mad and tried to punch me. In trying to do so, he somehow missed, and at that point, I just saw red. I then picked up this kid, bashed him against the wall, and straight up told him if he did that again, I would kill him. And guess what happened? That kid came nowhere near me after that. So good on you for fighting fire with fire. This one is called Impregnated My 15-Year-Old Ex-Girlfriend. So when I was 13 years old, I met with these two people online. One of them was called Noah and the other person was called Lily. They were my two besties and helped me out through tough times. I met with them in September and they were awesome friends. For about 8 to 9 months, Noah was busy because of exams and stuff, so me and Lily spent quite a lot of time with each other. After quite a while of talking, spending time, playing games, finding out about each other, and helping each other out with IRL problems, we decided to take our friendship to the next level. We officially became a couple on the 14th of February, and since she lives in Canada and I live in Germany, we FaceTimed and didn't really meet up in real life. Around the end of May, we both had 2 weeks off of school, and her family decided to come to a vacation to Germany like they do every year. We met up and I brought her to my place. We absolutely loved each other at the time. Since the age of consent in Germany is 14 and we were both 14, we did the deed in my house's basement, so my family wouldn't know about it. After a couple of days of her family staying in Germany, they had to go. By the way, our parents didn't know each other and they did not know that any of this was happening. She had a phone, so her parents let her go and, quote, explore the city, end quote, on her own without worrying too much because Germany is considered a safe country by most. Anyway, after a week, she and her fam had to go back to Canada. Now, we still had an awesome relationship for a year until she came back to Germany with her family. She basically did everything over that she did the previous year and we met up and did the deed again. After she headed back to Canada, we had a nice relationship for a little bit longer, but then she ghosted me over the entirety of June, giving me brief responses like, I can't talk, or my parents confiscated my device for a week, that is why I couldn't respond to you. I was fine with this because we are 15. Of course our parents are going to take away our devices and be strict to us. After June though, she seemed like a completely different person towards me. Less hyped about seeing me after a month compared to our friend Noah, after she started treating me like total bullshit, so I decided to break up with her. I tried to talk it out with her about 9 times before breaking up. She never gave me a proper answer on why she was acting weird. After the breakup, she got all mad and she said, I was cheating on you anyways, you fat ass, which really offended me because when I was younger, I was getting bullied for being a bit chunkier than the rest of my class. After a few weeks, I get friend requested by someone I don't know on Discord, and it turns out it was her. And she tells me that she's impregnated by me. Yeah, so I really don't know what to do. I would really appreciate the opinion from you, Niko, and your viewers maybe from the comment section if anyone has dealt with a problem like this. I don't know if I should ghost her and let her deal with it herself because she cheated on me, or if I should try and take care of the situation. She and I didn't know what to do about the child that has been in her for quite a while now, and she doesn't really want to take pills or stuff because in her book it's considered murder, which I do understand. I'm just pretty confused overall and would like your feedback. Well, I have one simple question for you. When you guys did the deed, were you wearing protection, yes or no? If the answer is yes, odds are you are not the father. As far as what you should do, you should tell your parents. Yeah, that you both should tell your respective parents about this. You need adults in this situation, okay? The bigger question is, when did she find out about this? And if she did cheat on you, you should definitely do a DNA test on that kid because, well, odds are it might not be yours at all. But yeah, you should both tell your parents, get them on a phone call with each other, and yeah, talk it out. Because this is one of those things I will not advise you on. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've had enough for today. For the next video, I'm going to put a form in the description in the format of Am I the Asshole for Doing X or Y? I'm sure you've all seen this format on Reddit. If you haven't, look it up. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, good night and good luck, everybody.